there's no way that a man-made reset is going to be deep enough or all engulfing enough to work. And the second reset will be Mother Nature's reset.
Okay, friends, before we begin this interview with Bill Holter, just a quick word from this interview sponsor. Y'all know silver and gold is the place to be, but maybe Bitcoin is too. And for those of you that follow the cryptos, if you haven't gotten involved yet, it's not too late. Most leading commentators believe that Bitcoin has just started its climb. Crypto pioneer Adam Back actually thinks it will soar to $300,000 in the next 5 years. Even if it does just 10% of that, that's $30,000 Bitcoin, which would buy you a very happy retirement. So give Noble Bitcoin a call and talk to their crypto experts about moving your IRA or 401k over to cryptos. You'll get tax breaks and peace of mind for starters. Visit noblebitcoin.com or call Noble Gold today at 877-646-5347 and get the ball rolling this July. Again, that's noblebitcoin.com. All right, guys, let's begin. I have back on the line, it's been far too long, by the way, Bill Holter from JS Mindset. And Bill, do we have a bunch of stuff to talk about today? The world has changed in profound ways since the last time we spoke. How are you?
Good, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to have you as we're having this conversation today. Let's take a look at the precious metals. Gold is up 21 an ounce to 2,066. Silver is up another $1.53 to 28.48, closing that silver to gold ratio. Sooner or later, we will get back to historic norms of 15 to 1 or less. Platinum is on the move, up 18.50 to 9.96, and Bitcoin is at 11,853 as the Fed continues to print and print and print. But that's not the only central bank printing, is it, Bill?
No, they're all printing, and it's the only tool the central banks have left. And really where we are now is where we were back in, 2012, 13, when the Fed said they were going to do QE3, and then the metals sold off, and they told us they were going to do QE3, but we're going to drain off the balance sheet. In other words, they said they were going to be able to sterilize it, which we found out in 2016, again in 2018, and of course last year, 2019, that the Fed can never shrink their balance sheet. I mean, the ramifications of the Fed shrinking the balance sheet is a total black hole of default. Yeah. And the only thing they can do is either inflate or die.
Yeah, and meanwhile, they're trying to lower interest rates to zero. They want to go negative interest rates. So the question must be asked, who on earth would want to invest in bonds versus gold or silver? Gold or silver will at least appreciate in fiat dollars, whereas bonds, good luck. All right, let me read this to you. I want your thoughts. And by the way, I did ask for people to give me questions. Any questions people had today, I tweeted about this interview, so we have some to share with you. Get this. This is from the World Gold Council today, 4 hours ago. In July, gold ETFs recorded their 8th consecutive month of positive flows, adding 166 tons, equivalent to US 9.7 billion assets under management. Once again, this brought the global holdings to a new all-time high, to which I responded, Bill, and tell me if I'm off track here. The day is coming when those who hold the SLV, GLD, and other metals ETFs, instead of physical precious metals, will learn a very painful lesson. If you don't hold it...
And it's gone.
You don't own it. Yeah, look, people think they have precious metals because they have 401ks or IRAs or, individual brokerage accounts, and they're buying the SLV and the GLD, Bill. I can't sound the alarm strongly enough when the SLV is controlled by JP Morgan.
Right. They're going to find out that, just look in the prospectus, they don't have to have physical metal. People are going to wake up and like the cartoon, and it's gone.
I got a $100 check from my grandma, and my dad said I need to put it in the bank so it can grow over the years.
Well, that's fantastic. A really smart decision, young man. We can put that check in a money market mutual fund. Then we'll reinvest the earnings into foreign currency accounts with compounding interest, and it's gone.
What?
It's gone. It's all gone.
What's all gone?
The money in your account. It didn't do too well. It's gone.
What do you mean? I have $100.
Not anymore, you don't. Poof.
They're going to find out that they own a piece of paper that's basically a receipt for gold that they supposedly have, but they don't.
Yep.
I mean, the best way to own gold is either have it in your hand or have it stored in a private non-bank vault, but you know that it was real, you know it was deposited, and the day is coming very, very soon that this thing's going to blow up in everybody's faces.
Yeah, well, it is already. I have just made this point time and time again recently in interviews, the last one with Chris Duane, in which I explained to people what's happening on the Comex, what was happening on the LBMA to try to fill the demand on the Comex during the COVID meltdown. And I signed off on this tweet with hashtag Phantom Metals. People need to understand there's a fraction of the physical out there that people think there is.
It's a very small fraction. And Sean, when GLD and SLV originally came out, right off the bat, my thought was it was a pressure valve. What it did was it diverted demand into something that did not actually demand real metal.
100% correct. I couldn't agree more. These ETFs were created to quell the demand for physical by offering
divert
promises. Paper promises. That's all they are. All right, I asked people to turn in some questions. We'll just start in no particular order with the latest one coming in first. All right, this is the easiest one of all. Do you think we'll ever be able to exchange physical gold or silver for other real tangible assets such as land or acreage? And I want to just say right off the bat, of course, you could do that today. You could go buy a house with silver or gold today.
That is the answer. I mean, you can hand over gold or silver and end up with a car or a piece of land, or go to a farmer's market. Go to a farmer's market with junk silver. Hand a dime to a farmer, you're going to get a dozen eggs. And that's the same amount that's what it cost, 7,500 years ago.
I wonder if Bandit, though, the person who asked this question, means could you literally go into your bank and give them several tubes of silver eagles to pay for a transaction? I'm not sure that day is coming anytime soon, but I think it will eventually come. They may require you to convert your precious metals to fiat dollars first, which you can do.
Right.
You got to sell the stuff first. But look, here's the thing. If a tube of silver eagles today is, and believe it or not, it's very expensive. 2020s are going for about $38 an ounce. Silver today is at closer to $29. But if a tube of silver eagles today can be bought at, say, $800 for 20 of them, imagine when that same tube is valued at $500 per coin instead of $35 per coin. I think that day is coming. All right, listen to this one. My dad is 87 years old, old school, and worried about taking his money out of the bank to invest in physical gold or silver. Any advice? Pros and cons of banks. Oh, boy, I've got a lot to say. You go first.
Yeah, there's all kinds. People, I guess the way to answer it is when people ask me how much they should leave in the bank, my answer is pretty much whatever you don't want to lose, get it out.
Yeah, whatever you need just to keep bills current, right?
Right, exactly. 3 months or 6 months. I mean, you can always convert metal back to fiat to make, for daily, weekly, monthly expenses. FDIC has already put in writing that there will not be bailouts, there will be bail-ins.
When a bank fails, your accounts belong to them. Your money belongs to them.
Your money belongs to them right now. You're no longer a depositor. You're a lender to the bank.
Right.
And if the bank goes under, well, you're part of the bankruptcy. Get in line.
What's all gone?
The money in your account. It didn't do too well. It's gone.
Can I share something with you? What I think is poignant about this particular question is if you imagine a man who's 87 years old, he actually lived in a time in this country when the banks had precious metals, or at least they had certificates that said on them, gold certificate, silver certificate. The banks actually had money. They had reserves. Today, the Fed has told them, you don't need any reserves. You might have $1 billion on deposit, but you don't need to have any of that cash in the vault.
Right. A bank doesn't need reserves versus deposits, and a bank doesn't need reserves versus any loans.
Well, and I think that the ironic part is this gentleman would be nervous about taking the money out of the bank to get physical silver or gold when that is exactly what so many of us younger people are doing, because we can see the threat that's coming, and it's evident every day as silver begins to break the chains of Comex manipulation. All right, this one is a little bit more complicated actually because we don't know, but in your view, how do you think Trump will handle the financial reset? And then maybe that gets us into other areas of NESARA and stuff like that. But your thoughts, this financial reset, it's coming. How's he going to handle it?
Well, we believe there's going to be two resets. We believe there will be a first reset, and that will be man-made. And that will benefit those in power, and it'll allow them to retain power, if you will. That's going to fail. It may only last a month or 2 months. It may last 6 months. It may last a year. But the mathematics, the way that the math is set up, the debt that's outstanding cannot be paid. And there's no way that a man-made reset is going to be deep enough or all engulfing enough to work. And the second reset will be Mother Nature's reset, where everything finds its true price level versus everything else.
Right. In precious metals. When valued in precious metals, do you mean?
Well, when valued in precious metals, I mean, all assets are going to be revalued. In other words, you'll have the revaluation of dollars, if that's still the currency, dollars versus euros versus yen, versus gold versus silver versus a cup of coffee versus an hour's labor from a laborer versus a car versus a piece of property. In other words, all assets are going to be revalued. And I think what you had mentioned before regarding who would want to put money into a bond for 10 years, the assets that are going to be destroyed the most will be the fixed income assets.
Yeah, can you imagine the devastation that's coming to pension funds?
Well, they're not going to get any interest. I mean, rates are basically zeroed out. And in the end, you're going to get paid in fiat that's worthless. That's what we talked about all along, is that gold and silver are not anyone's liability. An ounce of gold or an ounce of silver, all it is proof positive that labor, capital, and equipment were used to make that coin or that bar or what have you. It's proof of something that's already happened, whereas dollars, yen, euros, bonds, etc., are promises of more dollars, yen, or euros.
That's right. Borrowing today to pay for tomorrow. It's just absurd.
Exactly.
And it's decades of manipulation that is now going to unwind. And when you think about these pension funds, just think what these pension funds are probably chasing. Tesla at 1,400, Amazon at 3,000, and if they want exposure to gold or silver, they're buying the ETFs. It's just a disaster. It's all baked in the cake, in my view. All right, let me ask you this about PMs, precious metal stocks. Watson asks, today the PM stocks are actually down. What does that portend? They're actually not down. I'm looking at the SPDR, the GLDM, again, ETF. It's up 1% today, $20.50. Beyond that, though, what are your thoughts about the PM stocks?
They've had a pretty good run. I mean, you could say there's some profit taking. It doesn't look like that to me. More likely, what you've seen in the past, in past years, and I'm talking about going back 15, 20 years, is you could see a day like yesterday or today where the metals were up strong and the shares were flat, weak, not up, in other words. And what that would portend is a raid on silver, a raid on gold, or a raid on both. So, I mean, they may give it another try, but it's pointless because the raids are done in paper. And what's happening now is the physical markets are taking the game away from the paper markets.
Well, and
because there is real tightness in metal.
Yeah, well, it's gotten so bad, Bill. I've made this point time and time again recently, that on the Comex, they're dealing in 1 billion paper ounces of silver a day when not that much is mined in a year. They're doing that to try to suppress the price and control the price. That's how out of control this thing has gotten. So,
Right.
Next question here from William Filer. You covered this briefly, but I'll just ask it again. He wants to know about a reset coming in the good guys versus the bad guys, i.e. a global currency SDR. We know that is what the IMF would want, or the World Bank, or the Bank for International Settlements. They love their SDR, which I think they already have and they use between themselves. How about the SDR versus Trump gold-backed dollar in a full debt jubilee? Do you believe there's a chance there could be a full debt jubilee? And I'll piggyback on the end of that question. I just saw a tweet from Trump, I think it was yesterday, basically threatening the Democrats. If they're going to try to move forward with another $3+ trillion bailout, he's saying he'll order the IRS to get rid of the payroll tax. So the man is not afraid to go to battle with these people.
To answer your question regarding a Trump gold-backed currency, we'd actually have to have gold to do that. And we've not had an audit since 1956. So it's my opinion that we don't have anywhere near 262 million ounces. Now, you could do a gold-backed currency with 100 ounces if they were priced high enough.
Right.
So if we're going to have a gold-backed currency, you're going to have a gold price that will be a shocker to almost anyone who even thinks about gold. I mean, the numbers will be, it'll be a number with so many zeros behind it that even today would be, unbelievable.
I want to show you something kind of neat.
Oh, and as far as the SDR is concerned, I mean, that's a joke because the SDR is a very small part of it is gold, and the rest of it is what? Fiat currencies. It's a basket of garbage.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I want to show you something neat. You said you could reprice the currency with 100 ounces of gold. You just have to price gold at the right price. Look at this. This is pretty neat. I just ordered one of these just to have it. A $10 Utah gold-backed Aurum 24-karat gold foil note. Now, if you scroll down and you read about this thing, it's got 1/100th ounce of gold in this beautiful note. It's a wonderful test of what can be done to return to real money, Bill. Just wanted to share that example with you. I know you can't see it on your end, but it's a beautiful $10
Well,
note from Utah.
1/100th of an ounce of gold is worth, what, $21?
Right. But
if it's in the note, that thing's already appreciated.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
if there's actually gold in the note.
All right, let's find another one. You and I have been talking about a Comex default for a long time. Dave asks, do you see a Comex default for gold and silver in the coming months?
If you look at, we had a huge delivery month in June for gold. And then last month, which is not a delivery month, ended up being another huge month. I mean, it was 50 tons. And for the month of August, it started out, what was standing was a record at 146 tons, and that's already increased to 150 tons. Is it going to be August? I don't know. Will it be October or December? I mean, it's hard to say when, but yeah, it's going to happen because physical demand is overtaking. There's been so much paper that's sold that the amount of physical gold to be delivered can't be done. So yeah, we are going to have a default. I've talked about this for 5 or 6 years now, and took flack from the trolls after every interview or every time I wrote. But yeah, it's going to happen. It's happening before your eyes.
Yeah, and we saw an example of that during the COVID crisis, which I guess we're still in. If you leave it to the Democrats, we'll be in it at least until November.
Until November 4th.
These Democrats, Bill, I've never seen so much open, brazen evil, right? This COVID thing, and they're just beyond the pale. These Democrats, I never dreamt they were as evil as they are. But they're showing their true colors now.
Sean, the perfect example was Nadler saying that violence in Portland and Seattle is a myth.
Yeah. I
mean, what he's telling you, what he's saying to the American people is, don't believe your lying eyes. Believe what I'm telling you. Even though you can see it with your own eyes day after day after day. I mean, they just tore these cities to pieces, and that was not, it had nothing to do with George Floyd. It had nothing to do with protesting. It was looting.
You're not going to get a disagreement from any of us, Bill. I mean, it's absolutely out of control looting, and people like Ted Wheeler, Lori Lightfoot, Bill de Blasio, not only do they not try to stop it, they encourage it.
Well, they told their police to stand down. And these were prepaid lootings, if you will. I mean, how does it happen that there's pallets of bricks?
I know.
Pre-played, yeah. How's that? And this is it's anarchy.
Well, it is.
It's paid anarchy.
100%.
And I would say follow the money.
Oh, I would too. Right back to Soros and Soros-related organizations.
Exactly.
In many cases.
Yep.
All right. So just so people understand this default on the Comex, I think that's why silver has broken higher and is the number one performing asset of 2020. The only argument that could be made that is a better performer than that is Bitcoin. But silver's the number one financial asset for 2020 so far, and it's because the Comex doesn't have the gold to meet demand, and I bet they have even less silver. All right. We'll move on here to another question. Ask him what the ballpark figure he puts on the reset value of gold and silver. Your thoughts on what that reset value would be for silver. What's an ounce of silver 5 years from now, 2 years from now? How about an ounce of gold?
Yeah, I have no idea, and anybody who gives you a number is just picking a number. What I can tell you is, if you recall 2 years ago, I did the math. If the supposed gold that the U.S. has, 262 million ounces, if that was used to pay off the debt, which at the time was $21 trillion, it would have to be $87,000 an ounce. Now, since then, we've added what? Another 6, 7, 8 trillion in debt. And here they're talking about what? Another 1 to 3 trillion, depending upon what gets passed through Congress. So you're talking 30 trillion. I haven't done the math, but I'm guessing it's probably, the number's probably something like $125,000, $130,000 an ounce to pay off the national debt, just the on-books debt. Now, I'm not talking about Social Security. I'm not talking about Medicare. I'm not talking about the loan guarantees of all sorts to like Ginnie Mae, Fannie Mae. Just the on-books debt, you know, you're talking a number north of $100,000 an ounce. And that's assuming we have the gold. And I assume we do not have the gold because they haven't audited it since 1956. And why would you not audit something? Because it's not there.
Well, let me say this. I just did a interview with Chris Duane, and I titled that interview, $500 silver is no longer the joke you thought it was. Here's the thing, Bill. Amazon today, $3,229 per share with a $1.6 trillion market cap. It's unbelievable. Do people have any idea how that number, the value of one company, dwarfs the value of all of the physical silver on planet Earth right now?
That's correct.
It's insanity, man.
Hey, Sean, another way to look at pricing of gold, pricing of silver, pricing of a cup of coffee. The inverse of zero, and when I'm talking about zero, I'm talking about currencies that are going to fail and go to zero. The inverse of that is infinity. So what that means is no amount of paper currency will be able to buy gold or silver at some point in various currencies.
Zimbabwe. We have examples
Exactly.
of what you're talking about. Absolutely. Look at
Real
what
life.
happened to these poor folks in Venezuela.
Right.
It's happening actually in currencies all over the planet right now. And although
Yes.
it took the U.S.
Lebanon.
dollar, the longest to reach a new all-time high in gold. Well, now every day it's reaching a new all-time high in gold. What is that telling you, folks?
And every other currency.
That's right. All right, good talk here. All right, somebody's asking about the free gold theory from FOFOA. You know, I am somewhat familiar with FOFOA, but the free gold theory itself I would have to re-look into, guys. Sorry about that one. I'm going to have to pass, unless you have any comments, Bill.
Well, the free gold theory, it's a beautiful thing in theory, where the physical markets are the only things that that price gold. And we'll get close to something like that, but I do not believe you're going to see gold or silver ever be convertible in any currency ever again. You may have gold backing currencies, but then again, you have the trust issue of, do they really have the gold? Do they really have the silver that's supposedly backing a currency?
Right. Listen to this one. What's your estimated time to reach silver highs that were set in 2011? All right, guys, that was a $50 silver high. And I just saw yesterday, Bill, a news item from Bank of America saying they expect silver to hit 50 in the short term. That's Bank of America. Look, these criminal banks do not want people buying physical precious metals, but they can see the writing on the wall.
Well, Sean, with Silver Eagles, we're only $12 away. I mean, you could be there next week.
That's true in the real world pricing. That's right. But the spot price of silver today at $28.50 an ounce, I wonder at what point the spot price will be.
Of having a spot price. If you can't trade it, I mean, if you can't get silver for that price, that's not the price.
No, I totally agree. I couldn't agree more. It's phantom metal. And if you want to get the real stuff, guys, you can go to SD Bullion right now. You can go to APMEX, the dealer of your choice. Take a look. Silver in physical form today cannot be had for cheaper than $32 an ounce. Look, I'll tell you this, Bill. I bought a kilo ounce of silver recently for $610 an ounce, just in the last couple of months. That silver bar is now going for $1,000 an ounce.
Right.
It's physical. The demand for physical is off the charts. And if you take a look at that Amazon price, there's plenty of fiat dollars out there to come into this market.
Well, think about how much credit capital is going to end up fleeing the credit markets and looking for something real. That's where the real money's going to come from.
Yeah. All right, here's one for you. What's your number one mining pick? I don't know if you want to get into that or not.
I'd prefer not. I'm no longer an investment advisor, registered investment advisor.
That's generally the information people have to pay for from a certified financial planner, so we can't go there, guys.
Right.
All right, how about this? Have the banks switched to a quantum financial system? Thoughts on NESARA GESARA? We'll cover this just real briefly. NESARA GESARA, National Economic Security and Recovery Act, which was a set of proposals for economic reforms for the U.S. suggested in the 1990s by Harvey Francis Barnard, replacing the income tax with a sales tax, abolishing compound interest, and returning to a bimetallic currency. That's music to my ears. Guys, that is music to my ears. However, in the 1990s, when this system could still be saved, boy, has the ship left the port. I mean, I hate to get into stupid metaphors, but it's going to be a little tough now to have a panacea like NESARA at this point. But who knows? You know, we certainly wouldn't have a chance if Hillary Clinton was in the White House, but with Trump, you know, maybe he can pull a rabbit out of his hat, Bill.
The only comment I would make is that the second reset, Mother Nature's reset, will incorporate some of what you just mentioned. And Sean, I also want to mention to you, you talked about a total debt jubilee. Remember, one man's debt is another man's asset. So if you relieve somebody of their debt, you're also relieving someone of their asset, i.e. pension plans. So, you know, if you're sitting on a pension plan, you've been an employee for, 20, 30, 40 years, and you're relying on that, you should be making some other plans to provide for yourself, because a lot of these pension plans are going to completely bust.
Well, and the point I've been making about debt jubilees, and boy, are we all fed up with this BS, the debt jubilees have been directed at the big criminal banks. They're the ones that get the trillions of dollars in bailouts. How about this article from Wall Street on Parade? The Fed has secreted away the transactions of 3 of its emergency lending programs. The Federal Reserve Board of Governors does not want you to know where trillions of dollars are going. So who do you think is getting the debt jubilees right now, folks, as our currency begins to inflate away? The debt jubilees, Bill, have been for the big banks. Once again, just like 2008, 2009.
It's a remake of 2008 all over again, except much, much larger. I mean, think about 2008. They were, the TARP was $700 billion, and it was, it took a week or 2 weeks, and you had people literally saying, if you don't do the $700 billion, the whole system's going to blow up. Well, 700 billion is not even like a mini Band-Aid for what's going on now.
Listen to this. This is just unbelievable. This is from an audit from July 2011, folks. July 2011. Think of what's happened since then under COVID. Quote, as a result of this audit, we now know that the Federal Reserve provided more than $16 trillion in total financial assistance to some of the largest financial institutions and corporations in the USA and throughout the world. Meanwhile, they still want we the little people to pay our taxes. This system is so rigged and so evil, it needs to collapse. But as I've said so many times, Bill, I don't wish a collapse of the US dollar on the American people, because if it does not turn out well in sort of a Rosie Nacera picture,
it's not going to be a Rosie Nacera picture. That 16 trillion you were talking about, the key part of it was, and financial institutions all over the world. I mean, it had to go all over the world because you can't have any part of the world fail. Otherwise, all of the world fails.
Well, I just want people to know the takeaway on this conversation is like one that we've had so many times before, Bill, and I've had with others. I don't want a currency collapse. I don't wish this system to collapse unless a new, honest system that is for the people is ready to go. Because anything other than that, Fed coin, some other Fed Band-Aid, World Bank Band-Aid, IMF Band-Aid, Bank for International Settlements, Rothschild Band-Aid, will leave most people, and when I say most, I mean the large majority of people, more than 95%, will be serfs.
They'll be destitute. And Sean, you've been patriotic throughout this. You've tried to warn people. A lot of us tried to warn people for years and years. And what did we get? We got trolled. We got trolled on left and right. And here it is. The collapse is here. And, you look at the stock market and you say, oh, well, the stock market's coming back. Interest rates have gone down, which means bond prices have gone up. Well, what would you expect with trillions of liquidity going into the system? But the bottom line is they're going to lose the currency. They're going to hyperinflate.
And they're already hyperinflating in the stock market. Look no further than a $1.6 trillion valuation on Amazon. That was inconceivable 20 years ago, Bill. I remember when Amazon was $5 a share after the dot-com bubble crash.
Hey, Sean, I remember when the biggest takeover in all of history occurred, and that was 1985 when Texaco, $13 billion. $13 billion with a B.
If anybody actually still believes our currency is not currently being hyperinflated away, look no further than these lunatic stock price numbers, $1.6 trillion Amazon and $2 trillion Apple. It's incredible. That is the proof of hyperinflation.
The dollar has already hyperinflated. It's already lost 80% of its value versus gold this century. Since the year 2000, the dollar has lost 80% of its value versus gold.
That's an important point. And guys, although they used to troll us and laugh at us when we talk about $500 silver in the past, I don't think anybody paying attention is laughing at $500 silver now. I personally believe that's a reality that will come to pass. Bill, I appreciate your time so much. Do you want to tell people how they can find you and what you've been up to?
Yeah. You can go to www.jsmineset.com.
Well, that was easy. All right. Bill, thanks. It's been a long time since we spoke, and I think this was a good one. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
All right, guys, I hope you got something from this interview. I thought it was a pretty darn good one, and you got to remember, most of our friends, neighbors, and colleagues, this is a foreign language to them. They're not familiar with this information. Most of them don't know what the Fed is. They actually think it's part of the federal government. And friends, for real news, I'll remind you, please visit us directly at sgtreport.com because Google will not give you the website in a return search for SGT Report. And guys, thanks so much for tuning in. A very special thank you to our patrons who are keeping us in the fight for truth and real news. God bless, guys. Bye-bye.
The Crimex, which is the LBMA and the Comex, there's spent $5 trillion a year in paper contracts to control an at best $25 billion annually mined silver production. So this silver market is not going to unwind very easily. And the only way to prevent your wealth from being destroyed and being hijacked is to have your wealth outside the system. Silver allows you to have your own central bank.